Hi everyone, Janie here with Distress Ink Techniques Part 3. So I hope you have watched parts 1 and 2, and if not, please do, because the purpose of this series is to introduce you to distress inks and some of the techniques that you can use them for. So right now we're going to head on over to the craft table and we are going to take a look at some of those techniques. This method is a little messy, so you're going to want a craft mat or a surface that you don't mind getting ink on. You're going to need your distress ink, of course, and I'm using two different colors. I'm using peeled paint and shabby shutters. You can use any colors you want. I'm just using those two for this demonstration. And you're going to be needing a spray bottle and, of course, a piece of cardstock. So, first thing you're going to do is just get some ink on your mat. You can put it in any order you want. And then we're going to spritz it. And my little spritzer's having issues here, so be patient. Okay, let's try a different spray bottle here. There we go. I really don't think you can get it too wet, so let's just start smearing this through. I told you it was messy, but it's definitely worth it. The effect is just gorgeous. There you go. It makes a beautiful background for a project, or just, in place of a printed cardstock. And let me show you. I actually did one earlier with the same colors, so just a little bit different effect there. And I'm going to take a minute here and show you some other ones as soon as I wipe this off. I love the way it wipes right off these mats. Okay, so here's another one that I did with fall colors. And it just turned out amazing. And I used it to make these leaves. Let me see if I can get a couple in my hand here so you can see them. I have a nice little leaf punch. And the project I used that on. I did this back around Halloween. It was a fall project, but you can see how awesome the leaves look. And I couldn't have got that look without doing this effect that I'm showing you, because leaves aren't a solid color. And so it's really nice to be able to create my own paper that isn't just one solid color. It has, some texture or dimension to it. And here's another one that I did. This is with some pinks and blues. And I made a butterfly out of it. It's just beautiful. I love the things that you can do with these papers. Or you can just use it, like I said, as a background. It can be the sky, whatever you want it to be. But there's just so much that you can do with these. It is, limitless. You just choose the colors that you want. You could even do it with just one color. And like I said, you can use it for backgrounds. You can use it to punch flowers or butterflies or leaves or whatever you want out of it. It just, like I said, it's limitless as to what you can do. So that is this effect. And I'll be back with another one. I want to show you something that I made using that cardstock that I just colored. I colored that with shabby shutters and peeled paint. And then I went back and I stamped with the peeled paint, which was the darker of the two colors. And it looks just beautiful on there. It's going to be perfect for a card, and you could do this with any of the colors, but it just shows up nicely when you stamp with one of the colors that you used. Another thing I did, because I had used a clear stamp on a clear acrylic block, I was able to see through it and restamp. So I did the same thing on this one, except that after I'd stamped it with the peeled paint distress ink, I stamped over it again with an embossing ink. I used embossing ink pad, clear, and then I used Zing embossing powder, also clear, so that once you heat that up, it just creates a glaze over the top of the image. And it's just beautiful. So that's just a couple examples of what you can do with the cardstock that you color, but you can do so much more, and I really hope you experiment with that. What I'm going to show you now is going to look a lot like what I just showed you, but I'm going to show you a different thing you can do with it. So this time I'm using tea dye, so I'm only going to use one color. Here's my cardstock, and I'll just put a little on there, and give it some water. And yes, I'm doing the exact same thing I did with the other one. Now, if you do this with a particular color and you don't get a lot on there, then just do it again. There's, nothing that says, oops, that didn't work, so you're done. You just add a little bit more. Just keep wiping it up. Just keep going at it until you get the effect that you want. Don't ever feel that you're stuck with just one thing. There we go. All right, we're getting more on there. And it's kind of a weird effect, but I'm going to dry this and then I'm going to emboss it. So I will be right back. I'm back, and here is that gorgeous piece of paper that had kind of a marble effect with the tea dye distress ink. And I ran it through an embossing folder with my Cuttlebug. I use this one. It has clocks on it. It's kind of a vintage look, which is just perfect with this vintage looking cardstock after I got done with the tea dye. It's going to look gorgeous on the front of a card, and actually if I'd used a full-size piece, it would be gorgeous for the front of a card. So I just wanted you to see what that looked like and that it looks great embossed. I hope you like that technique. This is going to be a wonderful distressing technique that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you two different ways of doing it. So, things that you're going to need are distress ink, and for this I'm using Vintage Photo, and I do suggest Vintage Photo or a color of brown. That would work best for this. And then of course the water, and we're going to have a blending tool, One way I'm going to show you is on a piece of white cardstock, and the other way is on a manila tag. So the first one I'm going to show you is on the cardstock. We're going to give it a little bit of shading, lightly. Doesn't have to be too dark, doesn't have to be a lot. Okay, so that's probably definitely enough. You know, you can do a little bit less if you want. Now comes the fun part. We're gonna just wad this up every way you can. It did tear a little bit there, and that's fine. Or you could just be a little bit more careful than I am, but it doesn't matter because this is definitely for a distressed look. So I mean, just crumple it up. Okay, and now we're going to open it up. We're going to take the ink pad directly to it. We want it to catch on as many of those wrinkles as we can. All right, and then we're going to, that spritz bottle doesn't work. When you spray it, it kind of activates the ink and it spreads out a little bit further. Guess you'd call it bleeding. It bleeds. And you just get this wonderful old antique look. And then you can stamp over that. You can emboss over it. You can just use it for a background. And if you don't want it to be wrinkled, then you can actually iron that out and smooth it out. But the wrinkled look is great. That little, torn look is great. All right, now I'll show it to you a different way. Same, but different. We're going to take the manila tag, and we're going to do the same thing. Just bend it, twist it, bend it, put creases in it. You really want to break it down good. It's pretty stiff if you've ever felt these tags, so you may have to work at it a bit. The more you break it down, the easier it is to crumble. And try not to get too many straight lines in it, like folds. Try to get more angles if you can. Okay. I'm going to make sure it's crumpled really good here. Okay, that might be enough. The more you crumple it, the better, though. Let me tell you that. The more you crumple it, the better. The more creases, the better. Okay. See which side has better lines on it. I don't know. I think I might go with this side. Okay, again, we're going to take the Distress ink and go straight from the pad and just rub it on here. See if you can get as many of those creases as you can. Okay? And then the same thing. You just spritz it. What was different this time is that I didn't use the ink, with the blending tool on it. This time we just inked the creases. And you can just move that water around on there. It just helps it spread more. See if I can get it over here. You could see the ink running onto my craft mat. But the more creases, the better. And then again, just like with the other one, you can leave it wrinkled, or you can iron it out so that it's flat. And if you want, you can even add more ink to that. But it's just an absolutely wonderful way to distress your papers. If you are into that vintage look, this is definitely the way to go. And you can do it with other colors if you would like. And it does create an awesome marble effect. But for the vintage and distressed look, definitely go with, you know, like vintage photo, gathered twigs, maybe even the tea dye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope today's techniques have inspired you to experiment with distress ink yourself. And be sure to come back next week for part 4 with more techniques. Thank you for watching and happy crafting. Bye-bye.